This is John Paul Ryan. I'm coming from Tokyo, Japan. Some people call me... So everyone was worried that Game of Thrones was going to take home all these Emmys and that it didn't deserve it because of the backlash of Season 8 and things like that. And what ends up happening is it only took one away, and the one it took away, I personally think it deserves. So with Game of Thrones, I do think Season 8 was a pretty bad mess. Absolutely. I was disappointed. I didn't have as much concerns as everyone else, maybe, who hated it, but, I was disappointed, hands down. But the one they won was for Best Drama Series Total. It wasn't like for that season necessarily. And I think from seasons 1 to 6 were pretty fantastic. I know some people say 1 to 4. I think they're forgetting how good Arya and the Hound was. All kind of stuff like that came after season 4. And, I think like some of the hate might have blinded us to how good, like at least like the first 60 to 70% half of the show was. So let's take a look at this little article. And yeah, that wind's blowing. You never know when you record something someone could hear it or not. There's some kind of hurricane here. Who cares? Let's get into it. So here we have it. Well, I guess we were all wrong about Game of Thrones winning everything. Yes, it's Mary Sue. I check on them a lot because I usually disprove them, but once in a while they have like a neutral article we can meet in the middle with. They're only human. There was an idea that Game of Thrones was going to win everything tonight at the Emmys. We were wrong. In a wild twist of events, that's not the case. With only a win for Peter Dinklage for his performance as Tyrion Lannister, and he totally deserves that. And for outstanding drama for the show, Game of Thrones came home relatively empty-handed, which, if I'm being completely honest, is surprising. And I'll say so too. You know why? Because I know, like I said, Season 8, call it trash, call it what you want. I'm on your side. That's cool. It wasn't good. But on the whole, I think it deserves, some Emmys. While the last season of the show wasn't exactly a fan favorite, it was legendary and the end to a show that has changed the way we view our television. So to see it go out with more of a whimper during the Emmys, not exactly what I wanted for the show, but I get that this year's Emmys were particularly stacked when it came to brilliant performances and shows. Sad to watch as the team took to the stage and said goodbye to the show, but one thing stuck out. David Benioff said that the likes of Game of Thrones would never happen again when HBO has multiple prequels in the works. Something I was going to talk about in this channel is the prequels of Game of Thrones. I'll talk about that in this video, I guess. I didn't want to make a full video on it. I don't know why. I just figured it wasn't quite that important, and we'll get to that at some point when there's more information. I get the sentiment, but also Game of Thrones ushered in a new level of television, and we can continue to follow in its footsteps and grow and change the production value of television. Yeah, and I agree. Just the shock value that Game of Thrones gave us that we never really saw before on TV on that level of main characters dying and the story continuing at pretty much the same level of interest. When Ned died, I was like, oh man, do I really want to see what's happening next? Ned was like why I was watching the show, but then of course it was very interesting. Then when Robb and Cat Stark died, I was like, oh man, damn, now what? And lo and behold, season 4 was great, and it kept going on and on, even though it killed all these main characters. So it really pulled its weight for, I'm going to say, the majority of the time. Yeah, 7 and 8 didn't stick the landing. That sucks. It sucks. I know, guys. I know some of you guys are really terribly disappointed with it, as am I, but I'm kind of like more at like the 70% level disappointed than like 100% hate it forever level. We owe that much to the series, but it doesn't mean that now that it is over, nothing will ever hold up to it. Remember when we thought that Lost was the most revolutionary thing to happen to television, but then Game of Thrones happened? The game is constantly changing, and while this is a sad goodbye, it won't be the last thing we see of this magnitude. Little video here. Looks like a dragon. Screeching. It's a tweet. Not a little video. Let's skip down. Kim Renfro, whoever that is going on about how some of the actors and actresses should have won awards that didn't, namely Lena Headey, and yeah, she should have, and a lot of them should have, beside Tyrion, because they were all spectacular. Jordan Kruchurila says, apologies, last names really screw me sometimes because I've got to read so many a day. I'm not saying it should have been for this season, but it's absolutely effed Lena Headey never got an Emmy for Game of Thrones. And I can agree. Alright, so what I was going to say about the prequels is it going to be tough to go in and watch the prequels after a lot of people, including myself, have some disappointment and some kind of negativity about Game of Thrones in general, and I think I could give it a chance. I don't want to see anything, political, and I don't want to see 10 lead women telling the man they're terrible and they can't do anything but be slaves and that kind of thing. I just want to see the fairness that Game of Thrones had, and it had very, very strong women. I hate when women complain about women's roles in Game of Thrones. I don't mean women. I don't mean normal women. I hate when social justice warriors complain about women's roles in Game of Thrones, because the men got it worse than the women in that show as far as physical deformity and treatment and stuff like that. It was really, really even between the men and the women. I've never seen anything so even in my life, actually, as far as power, what happens to characters, things like that. So anyway, I think I could give the prequels a chance. Of course, seeing is believing. Same thing now with Star Wars, because like I said, we did have that pretty horrific ending, so I'm going to have to see it, make sure it's good, and then see if I get into it. But I'll give it a chance. Doing shout-outs, special thanks, things like that. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. I would do a shout-out, but I've got a real glare here, and I usually hold up my phone. It's not working right. Was going to give one to Nathan Harris. He's been giving me some really good support. I hope you guys could see that. Cool guy, and I will see you. Wait, smash the subscribe button, or I won't see you next time. See you next time.